And a wonderful Friday night to everybody out there, and welcome to our newest edition, Ross Racing Show. I am Matt Harrelson. Alongside with me, of course, our NASCAR know-it-all, Russell Parker. So let's jump right into it. Now, us being here in Richmond County, specifically in Rockingham, of course, we have a speedway.
Yep.
Now, it's been vacant for quite some time, but of course, new management has taken over, and the Richmond Observer has been keeping track of all the movement with that. So, of course, you can find all of that information on the Richmond Observer and the RO app, which is free. But is NASCAR returning to the Rock? It's that simple.
It has been it seems like it's been teased quite a bit on Rockingham Speedway's Twitter account. There's been a little bit of action going on there a lot lately, actually, with pictures of the racetrack. There's been a lot of articles that we've been able to stack up together, and Will's done a really good job of getting that all together. But, I think racing is definitely coming back a lot sooner than we think. And I think specifically NASCAR is going to come back a little bit more sooner than we all think. And
Why do you think NASCAR? Now, I know you put a thing up, and I think you got it from the Speedway's Twitter page. Whoever it was had a safety packet, but it was NASCAR's logo on it. So what do you read from that little tweet?
Well, one of the issues that we seen when before Rockingham completely shut down was that NASCAR had pulled out one of its events. It was a K&N East Series event, and they pulled it out because of safety reasons they were assessed. So there's definitely some safety protocols that the Speedway was not keeping up with at the time. And it seems like now that the Speedway owners are trying to figure out what those issues are and what they can figure out to get the track to operational for NASCAR sanctioned events. Now, that doesn't mean they can't have other racing out there outside NASCAR, because this is NASCAR's rules. It all depends on the other series or whichever other type of racing they want out there. They have their own rules as well. So as far as NASCAR goes, it seems like they're really looking into it. They're very serious about it. Now, I might be optimistic on this, but I think with them looking into it, I think that they could probably ink a contract for the 2020 to 2025 season, because NASCAR does their things in a 5-year contract rule. So I think it'll be starting in 2020 until 2024 that they would have a 5-year contract deal, and if they can at least ink that, maybe they'll have a late race date.
But they have to do that sooner rather than later.
Very soon.
Right?
It has to probably be, I'm pretty sure it has to be this year, 2019. They have to get it inked in before they reveal the 2019 calendar season or 2020 calendar season. It's a lot of ifs and hopes, but I think if they're really seriously considering it, I think there's a good chance of it happening.
See, the thing that piques my curiosity is why put cryptic tweets like that out there? What, just to stir it up? I mean, if you're not actually going to follow through with it and bring NASCAR back. Mm-hmm. I've been saying forever, since they left, that we should forget about NASCAR. They're not coming back. So I'm still of the thinking that I will believe it when I see it kind of thing. But do we even want NASCAR? Because they're trying to do a lot of different things with new management out at the Speedway. You know, we've got the Epicenter Music Festival. I understand that's across the street, but it's still all out there in that vicinity. And there are other opportunities with the dirt track and all that to make money, concerts, that sort of thing. Should we even bother trying to bring NASCAR back after they basically left Rockingham high and dry?
I think NASCAR had no choice but to leave, and it wasn't NASCAR's fault that they left. They had no choice but to leave. And I think NASCAR is still a marketable sport that you can bring here to Richmond County. I still think it will work. But, don't just all focus on NASCAR. And I love NASCAR myself, but I understand that there are other things that we can do for the racetrack. Other tracks that have NASCAR races, some of them even have 2 races a season. Some have all 3 national series come to that track. But they have other stuff going on throughout the year. They have I don't know how many weeks out of the year they can do it without entering into winter, but they always have stuff going on. Charlotte, for example, they'll have car shows, they'll have auto fairs, and they'll have some other smaller racing events going on. They even have a Christmas light show. You can drive on the racetrack. Everybody can just go through it, and I think that's the kind of stuff that Rockingham Speedway is definitely going to be looking into with concerts and other type of events that go on. And NASCAR will be huge if we get it back. I think just kind of putting us back on the map again and saying, hey, NASCAR is here.
Charlotte's blueprint would be a good one to follow, right? Where
Yeah.
you've got the Z-Max and then you've got the Speedway right there. I'm not sure. Do most racetracks have a speedway, have a drag strip nearby like we do, or are we kind of one of the few that are like that?
Most of them do. I
Okay.
think it's kind of a reason as well because of noise pollution, especially in the bigger cities. You want to keep that stuff to a certain area. But Charlotte owns all of their stuff. They own the racetrack. They own the drag strip. They also own their dirt track. So all that's kind of just bunched together. You can see that a lot with the SMI tracks. They'll all have that sort of settled the same way. So I think, Rockingham has that opportunity to do that, including the dirt track that has been kind of jumping around with the idea as well. I think they can have that happen. I think using the short track that's behind the main speedway would be a lot of it creates more opportunities for more things to happen here.
Now, I think it was NBC Sports that put out a poll asking between Rockingham, North Wilkesboro, and Nashville Fairgrounds, which one, I guess, NASCAR fans would rather see come back.
Yep.
And Rockingham won that. And I'm pretty sure the Speedway retweeted it or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously, I guess there is a clamoring for it to come back. However, North Wilkesboro, that's never going to happen.
Unfortunately, no. I love North Wilkesboro. I've seen some races on, going on YouTube and seeing some racing because they closed up the same year I was born, so I never got a chance to even see anything of that racetrack. But yeah, I think North Wilkesboro, I hate to say it, but I don't think it's going to be very difficult to get anything back over there.
And when they say Nashville Fairgrounds, they're talking about actually in Nashville, right?
Yeah, it's off the interstate and it's kind of just outside the city, I believe.
Yeah. I guess the point I'm trying to make is it was kind of like you either took Rockingham or you didn't take either one, kind of thing. So,
And I'm not dissing Nashville because they actually have a pretty cool track and it is settled in a bigger city like Nashville. So I think that would be a nice way to go. It's also a southern track as well because most NASCAR fans
and you're near a metropolitan city. Mm-hmm. Look, I'm not knocking NASCAR, and I'm not knocking NASCAR necessarily coming to Rockingham. I just don't want people to get their hopes up too much because we've seen, just with the Speedway alone, we've seen it, being owned, then go to auction and sold, then be owned, then go to auction and sold. We've seen it, up and down so many times, and every time it gets sold, no matter who ends up taking it over, even though it never lasts, people's first inclination is, oh, NASCAR's coming back, NASCAR's coming back. And I just want people to curb your enthusiasm, if you will, and perhaps wait until something is concrete, right?
Well, since the track got sold back in 2004 when it shut down, there's only really been one other owner, or two other owners rather, Andy Hillenberg, and I can't never remember the guy's name, but those two pretty much ran the track. And, then they had the whole fiasco with the bank foreclosure on it and all that. So they still want ownership over that. But I think the new guys that are coming in, I think they understand how to do a business. They're successful up in Raleigh. They have nightclubs that they run. So they know entertainment. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to play it smart. They're going to understand what they got to do to get this track operational for whatever they got for ideas. And I think that also includes NASCAR in those ideas.
All right, so stay tuned here in Rockingham. We may have NASCAR sooner rather than later.
And even if it's not this year, there's still the other 5 years after. They got plenty of time to get it back going. There's such a high demand for short tracks in NASCAR right now that even some of the guys, some of the higher ranks officials of NASCAR, they're like, we need to transition from these 1.5 mile tracks, these cookie cutter tracks that nobody really cares to go to or watch. Put them on the short track. That's what everybody is in high demand for. Local short track racing is huge right now. I think that's what NASCAR is trying to get back to.
All right, we'll have to wait and see whether Rockingham is going to be one of those. So, shifting gears and shifting careers. I like that. That was good. Drivers are moving to some new teams for the 2019 season. So let's run through some of these drivers that are moving around and see whether it is going to be a good move or a bad move. So Martin Truex is going to be driving the number 19 Joe Gibbs Toyota. Now, before we start here, I wrote down Furniture Row Racing because that's who he was with last year, and I didn't want to forget. But he's no longer with them. Obviously, he's moving to Joe Gibbs. So
they shut down this season after this past season. Really emotional final race for them because they had an opportunity to win championship.
This has to be
second.
This has to be a good move, though, right?
I think it is. That will put him from a 1-car team to a 4-car team. He's going to be around the likes of Kyle Busch, though, as his formal teammate. They were kind of informal teammates when he was with Furniture Row. But I think this will be a good move for Truex. I think it's I don't think it's going to change for good or bad. I think it's going to be kind of the same because he is a championship driver. His team was a championship team. And, going to Joe Gibbs, who kind of helped fund their team just a little bit. It kind of made them inclusive to their satellite teams, I guess you can call it. So I think making the moves to Joe Gibbs is going to work out very well. That 19 car is going to be put back on the map again as well. And I think we're going to see a lot going on there.
All right, up next, Daniel Suarez leaving the number 19 to go to the number 41 car with Stewart-Haas Ford. So what do you think? Good move, bad move?
I think this is a fantastic move for Daniel Suarez. Now, I think him moving out of the Joe Gibbs, the stable for them, I think it's going to be very helpful for him because he's going to go to a very, very successful team that's overall a successful team. Where you look at Joe Gibbs, there's really only one guy that's kind of running the show there. And that is Kyle Busch. But over on Stewart-Haas, who was arguably probably the best team overall in 2018, you had guys like Kevin Harvick leading it with Kurt Busch. Now, he's gone, of course. But you had Clint Bowyer and Eric Almirola, who just came over and won his first race in a very long time, a couple of years. So I think him going over is going to be a big move for him. Ford's bringing out the Mustang this season as well. I think that might help out some. I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes for them. But, I think going to one of the best teams of the year, I think it's going to be very good for Daniel Suarez. And he is a very up-and-coming driver. He was a 2016 Xfinity Series champion. A lot of potential for this guy.
Speaking of the Bushes, Kurt Busch, he's also on the move, leaving the number 41 car to be in the number 1 Chevy for, I'm going to probably butcher this, but Chip Ganassi.
Ganassi. You're close.
That was close.
Yeah, so Jamie McMurray announced retirement earlier in 2018, and so they needed another ride. So Kurt Busch is going to go to a 2-car team, which is Kyle Larson as his teammate. That's going to be awesome, I think.
It's not a bad teammate.
It is not at all. And I think Kurt Busch, I hate it for him because I feel like he was still one of the best guys on. Actually, I think he's probably maybe the second best guy that Stewart-Haas had. And I'm not sure whose decision it was for him to leave. But they have been always in talks every single season about him leaving, and now it finally happened. Hopefully this will be a good opportunity for Kurt Busch to find himself back in victory lane some more, maybe even a stab at the championship again. He's former champion, and I think he can probably get himself back up there again.
So Kurt Busch is heading to Chevy. Meanwhile, Ryan Newman is leaving Richard Childress Chevy, the number 31 car, heading to the number 6 Roush Ford Racing. So
yeah, I think it's going to be a big move more for Roush because Ryan Newman has always been a pretty solid driver. He's gotten Richard Childress numerous victories over the past couple of years since he's been there. He drove that number 31 car. But now he's going to the 6 car, who was kind of had nobody for a while. Over this past 2018 season, it was split between, I believe it was Trevor Bayne and Matt Kenseth, who hasn't really picked up the ride himself. Trevor Bayne has had to step away for medical issues. But I think Ryan Newman is going to be able to get himself back in contention for a lot more racing wins. And overall, I think it's going to be a good move for him.
All right, so let's move forward and talk about a new season coming up, which just like any other sport with NASCAR, we've got some new rules. So I'm going to read this off, and I want you to explain it to me because I don't know. Some tracks, and you've got most of those are 1.5 mile tracks, will be used in the 2018 All-Star Race Rule Package. So first of all, explain to us what that means.
So if you watch the 2018 All-Star Race, you've seen that racing was similar to what you see on tracks like Daytona and Talladega. They call it plate racing. They might call it, just drafting. A lot of drafting in the race. Pack racing is another term. I think I can't really get into specifics, but I know it increases restrictions on the engine, and it also increases some downforce on the car as well. That type of stuff is going to it should be creating better racing overall at those tracks because, again, as I said earlier in the Rockingham part, NASCAR is looking for ways to improve racing or get away from 1.5 mile tracks. If they can fix that issue, they might stick around with those. They might make them more interesting. And the All-Star race this past year was a lot of fun to watch. It hasn't been that fun in a while, actually. So I like the move personally.
So overall, you think it's a good move?
I think it is. I think we're going to have a lot more interesting races at tracks like Atlanta, Texas, especially Texas. I think Texas has not had a great year in racing this past season. Charlotte, obviously, when they go to the Coco 600, I'm not sure if it's implemented very exactly, but I believe it is. And that's going to be a lot of fun to watch as well. 600 miles of pack racing. As a pack racing lover, I'm going to love that.
Right. So overall, you think it's going to create some better racing then? Mm-hmm. All right. Final thing here, because Daytona 500 and the new season will be here before we know it, because February is right around the corner, whether you like it or not. So let's do some. I'm not, but you. Let's do some way too early picks here, and let's start with the Daytona 500. So who you got in February?
Well, I actually have Jimmy Johnson winning Daytona 500.
Remember, let me write this down.
Oh, you can find that on Richmond Observer.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, you can see down my column where I actually got the names listed. But yeah, I have Jimmy Johnson winning this one, and I have him specifically for a reason. Not really on stats. Now, he had a terrible season last year, his worst season ever, first winless season ever in his career. So Jimmy Johnson, winless and all that. Going in 2019 will be his Daytona 500 win, because the past 7-time champions, Richard Petty, 1 year he went winless. Next year he won Daytona 500. Dale Earnhardt, the same situation. So I feel like there's going to be some.
I'm going off of history repeating itself.
I'm going off history repeating stuff. Yep.
All right. With that being said, let's say Jimmy does win the Daytona 500. I think it's safe to say that his career is starting to wind down. Would that be maybe a resurgence for him next year?
Yeah, I think that winning the race will be great for him. That actually will put him into the playoffs automatically. So you get the first win in the season, you're pretty much set for the rest of the season as long as you stay ahead of 30 points as long as you stay ahead of the 30 position in standings. But I think he can do that.
All right. Also on the bracket here, so let's get your 2019 championship four. Who do you think is going to be the final four at the end?
Well, obviously,
write this down too.
Yeah, and I have to make sure I got this correct because I actually have it written on the thing here. But I don't have Jimmy Johnson for one, but I do have Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch obviously in there. Kyle Busch is just going to make it every single season. I think Kevin Harvick gets two. Those three guys are still going to be the big three coming in the next year.
I'm going to say, this looks awfully familiar.
It's going to be that wild card. And I actually have I have Chase Elliott.
Okay.
Fourth, yeah. He had a huge season this past year. And I think with two, I think he had 2 or 3 wins, 2 wins this season. And coming in 2019 is going to be a big year for him. I think Chevrolet's probably going to work things out with their Camaros, and Hendrick is obviously focused on developing their younger drivers. I think Chase Elliott, besides Jimmy Johnson, is kind of that leader right now in the group. And I think he's going to lead on and fight very hard, but I don't think he's going to be the champion.
Here's a name that I'm not seeing in your Final Four, and that is Joey Logano, who's not only your man, but also is coming off a championship.
Now, I will say that Joey Logano, he really surprised me last season, how he came up from behind and pretty much won the whole championship. I wasn't expecting it, but it was certainly a long time coming for that. But yeah, I have him, right now I do have him going very far into the playoffs. He's going to have a great season, as well as Brad Keselowski. I think they're going to have a great season for Team Penske. I just don't know if he can do it back-to-back. It's very difficult to get a back-to-back champions for this playoff format. I think he'll go as far as the Elite 8, or Eliminator 8 as I call it. But I think that's about as far as he'll go. Hopefully, maybe he'll make some big moves. I mean, Martinsville has been a good track for him this year, so maybe he can get it again.
All right, so Truex, Kyle Busch, Harvick, and Chase Elliott. Who you got winning?
I have Kevin Harvick winning this one.
All right.
At least that's what I think. I can't remember off the top of my head. That's who I got on the article. But for now, on a sports show, it's going to be Kevin Harvick.
All right, I'm writing Harvick, champion. So we'll have to come back to that. Of course, that is etched in stone. Of course, people will want to check out your NASCAR preseason column. They can on the Richmond Observer.